Hello, and who are you and where are you from?
I am David Born.
And I'm Fara Born.
And where are you from?
Parker, Colorado.
Parker, Colorado.
Yes.
And we're here outside of Albuquerque. Where are you passing through, or where?
We're just on a little vacation, touring New Mexico and Arizona.
And so you told me you had a COVID story.
I'll tell my story first.
Okay.
I am a nurse. I'm a wound care nurse, and I was working in a hospital in March through July of 2020, where I would occasionally take care of COVID patients, and our hospital would set up special wards. They would convert particular units into COVID units that were isolated and kept specially. I have an older father with Parkinson's, and so I left my position last July and went to Virginia to take care of my 84-year-old father in Virginia at his home. Our 29-year-old son went with us. While in Virginia, our son got COVID, and he just had a little bit of fever and some flu-like symptoms. He really didn't have respiratory symptoms. My father is nonverbal, pretty much, and he had some symptoms. He had fever, diarrhea, and fatigue, and I believe he had COVID, but he was not tested. Our son was tested positive. I believe I had COVID, but my symptoms were so mild, I'm not sure. It was just headache and fatigue. I assumed it was COVID, but I was not tested. So we came back, my son and I came back to Colorado in February and have been waiting. We got our our first vaccination just last week. The delay was because we had a lot of difficulty getting an appointment. Lots of people in Parker, Colorado wanted to get their shots, and so the appointments were difficult to come by. Now your turn.
Okay. I'll start by talking about one of my brothers. I've had two brothers that had COVID. One of them was his wife went to they live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and his wife went to a party. It was called the When I'm 64 party. And this was with a bunch of people from high school and college, I believe. And my brother didn't go, but anyway, this was very early. People weren't wearing masks. They weren't social distancing. This was like in February or so. I'm just guessing there, but anyway. So she came home, and a few days later she got sick, and like she had the flu, and lost her sense of taste, taste. And so they're pretty sure that she had it, although she was never tested while she had it. Later they tested for the antibodies, and she did have it. Apparently my brother got it from her, but he didn't have any symptoms whatsoever. So, and again, this was early, so who knows? He might have had it and spread it or what, but he never had any symptoms. And then I had another brother who he was in kind of a bad way. He had cancer of the esophagus, and he was in Phoenix, and he was just getting weaker and weaker, and he wasn't really responding to anything. He'd had treatment for his cancer, but he got to a point where he was too weak for it. So we went out to visit him, and he was in hospice at the time, and so the family was going to take in turns spending time with him. Well, I had been there for about 5 days, and then probably the next to the last day, they suddenly told me he had COVID. And this was kind of a shock to me, because I'd been with him. I'd been doing probably I wasn't doing excellent, but I was wearing my mask most of the time. But we'd get on the phone with somebody, and I'd hand it to him, and then he'd hand it back to me, and And so when I learned that he had COVID, I was pretty worried, but
it was known that he had pneumonia. It was not known that he had COVID-related pneumonia.
We think he probably picked it up in the facility there. Anyway, so long story short, I got tested and I was negative. Probably when I got tested, it was really too soon. I mean, now that I know more about it, because I got tested probably the day after. I could have been exposed and then tested the next day. So anyway, so I flew back to Denver, and then he died not too long after that. So yeah, he really, this underlying what he died from was the cancer, but he had COVID when he died. So I think they count that as a COVID fatality.
Wow. Have you been? So you've been distancing and been careful this whole year.
Yes.
And you've actually been away from home from this last year, and COVID has been part of that story. Has it affected your anxiety level, your thoughts about life and death this last year, your happiness?
Let me back up and tell you how it's really affected me. I mean, when I was at home, we started working from home. I'm an engineer with Verizon Wireless, and it was like 99% of the time it was from home, whereas usually I would go out in the field or in the office, but we did everything from home. And so I spent all my time, I'd go to the grocery store and I'd take our dog to the dog park, and that was about it. I didn't really interact with anybody else, and so I tried to be good. There's a couple times we had to fly out to Virginia for her dad, and so we did that, but otherwise we were pretty good. As far as happiness,
if you need to keep that
we're good. It's been kind of a stressful year with her dad and with my brother dying, and so if anything has affected how I look on life and everything, it's probably been those two people more so than COVID. But the numbers are huge. It's just what astounds me is how many people just ignore it and say, I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm not. We meet people like in Virginia, for instance, who proudly proclaim they've only worn a mask once or something like that, and I just think that's ridiculous.
Well, I can say from a nursing point of view, my attitude all along has been, it's real, obviously. However, nurses in a hospital setting deal with contagious diseases on a regular basis. So my attitude was always take it seriously and be careful. Wear your masks, wash your hands, and be assiduous with that, but don't be unduly anxious about it. Just be careful, and probably you will be okay. Like I said, that's from a nursing background where we are frequently exposed to infectious diseases. And then as far as life and death, I would agree with David that his brother's cancer, my father's Parkinson's and hospice, those probably influenced our outlook on life and death more than COVID did. Like I said, I come from a nursing background. I worked in the ICU, and so I've actually been around death quite a lot for many years, and have developed from that a sense of mortality, that every day is precious and you protect it, and you live each day as though it's your last, but you act as though you're going to live forever.
And have you, I guess I'm going to add two questions. One is, has anything good come out of this year? Have you developed new hobbies? Have you grown closer because you're together more often? Anything good come out of this year?
I think for me, it's simply just a reminder that there's no guarantee that you're going to live to retirement. Don't put off until retirement the things you want to do. Do them now. Even if it's inconvenient to take a vacation in New Mexico right now, do it anyway, but do it safely. Don't put off till tomorrow what you could do today, because you're not guaranteed a tomorrow.
And lastly, do you think this is the new normal? What's going to happen going forward? Do you think, by the way, that it was all handled pretty well by the government? And what do you think going forward?
Okay, I'll answer that. No, we think Trump and the Trump administration did a pretty lousy job. There's a lot of talent in there, and you know that he didn't take advantage of, and a lot of things that he did, and you know, were outright lies, and his story about different things that would help. What was the one, the malaria medicine that would help? I forget what it was. Chloroquine. Yeah. Chloroquine. You know, and things like that. And no, we don't think he did a very good job. But I think there were a lot of people who were helping out, and you know, the manufacturing went on, and I think it could have. I mean, you know, the Operation Warp Speed seemed to be pretty good, and you know, I think it's going better now, and to an extent, they're reaping the benefits of what was done in the Bush administration. But anyway, I think we have more confidence in the government now, and hopefully the CDC, and you know, we'll get back on track and all of that.
We think the new normal is evolving. We think that there's a really strong desire to get back to the freedoms that we enjoyed before the pandemic. However, I think some of the changes, more people working from home, I think things of that nature are going to be persistent. I think cautiousness in public places, a new emphasis on hygiene and taking responsibility for your health, and being careful. I think those are some good aspects of the pandemic that hopefully will go on.
I'm going to guess that people are going to, you know, if somebody feels like they are getting the flu or something, I think they're going to stay home more. They're going to wear masks more. I think you're going to see more masks on airplanes permanently. You know, just people, if they feel bad, they don't want to give it to somebody else, or that they might feel like they don't want to get anything.
Right.
I think I'm just making a medical prediction from nowhere, but I have a feeling we're going to get some sort of vaccination every year. You know, because as this virus mutates, you know, they're gonna want to keep vaccinating people, and until I don't know, maybe until it goes away. Maybe the flu vaccine in the future will cover COVID as well. But I think everybody needs to get vaccinated, and even if they've had it, you know. And I think people need to keep wearing masks until they really say don't.
Yeah, particularly with all the new variants. That's I think the biggest concern. Even if we all get vaccinated in the United States, so many other countries have not begun their vaccination programs yet. And while the virus is spreading in those other countries, it gives it an opportunity to mutate and to form new variants that perhaps our vaccination is not effective against. And so I think I agree with David. I think that we're going to end up needing booster shots of COVID variants for the future ongoing.
Thank you very much. We're here outside of Albuquerque on, what's the date here today?
Is April 16th?
April 16th, 2020. Thank you very much at Love's Truck Stop. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.